All right. This is Randy Dietz, Randy Dietz Golf Academy and Director of Instruction at Windmill Golf Center, and here with my good buddy and former caddy for Jon Mills, the men's head coach at Kent State University, former PGA Tour player and Korn Ferry Tour player. He's actually the 17th all-time money list winner. Did you know that, John?
I did not know that. I will say too, I was thinking about it. I played everything, buy.com, web.com, nationwide, and I guess technically I didn't play any Corn Ferries, but yeah, I went through a bunch of name changes on that tour.
Went through a bunch of name changes. So there's two highlights we're going to talk about today. One is going to be to share the Jason Gore story from his run of 2005, which I believe, as we go through here, it's one of the best stretches in golf on any tour ever. And then number two is how you and I, we were kind of a part of that. We were intertwined with that stretch and how that stretch kind of catapulted you to the PGA Tour. So those are two things. This all started, this whole story, I was kind of reflecting, obviously a bunch of time right now. And I remembered back to the 60 that you had in Omaha on a Friday, which I do remember got overshadowed by Jason Gore's 59. So that's how this all got started. I did some research on it. When I bring up that story, what's that mean to you, that 60 on Friday of Omaha?
Yeah, funny about that round was that obviously you're playing some good golf, but I finished on the front nine, and so did Gore. Gore was maybe a group or two ahead of me.
It was right behind you.
Yeah, and on the par five, six, I remember making bogey from the middle of the fairway with like a 2-iron into the green, and obviously still ended up shooting 60, but there was no one after, no media, no nothing after, and I'm coming off the green. I think I was maybe tied for the lead or with a shot or two from the lead. And I finally went in and got interviewed, but it was like, what do you think about Jason Gore shooting 59? I'm like, oh, let me tell you
got a
about
little overshadowed. As I was doing research on this, I found an ESPN.com article. They used it from the Associated Press, and the headline was Jason Gore's 59. And believe it or not, you had a 2-shot lead at the end of that round, 3 shots over him. He started out 71-59. You started out 67-60. So you're kind of buried on the lead that day. But we're gonna come back to that story. That's going to be a good finish to this timeline here. So I'm going to start the story out here, June 12th of 2005. So at the LaSalle Bank Open in Chicago at the Glen Club, you had actually just come off of a tied for 9th that Sunday. Jason Gore tied for 17th. So we had the week off after. So we headed home after that event. Jason and his wife drove from Chicago. He had qualified for the U.S. Open in 2005 at Pinehurst. So him and his wife, they made it to Asheville, North Carolina Sunday night. They actually got, as I was doing some research, I remember hearing about it, but it was interesting reading about it. They got their car ransacked, everything taken from them. And his caddy at the time, Lewis Puller, actually had Jason Gore's golf clubs with him. So that was
nice. Yeah.
That was kind of a nice thing in that regard. It was unfortunate. Yeah. So fast forward to the end of that week at the U.S. Open, Jason had a unbelievable run. He was a media darling that week. He birdies his final hole Saturday, the 3rd round, to get tied for 2nd. And he's in the final pairing of the U.S. Open. He's not a PGA Tour member that year. He's a nationwide tour member. And if I believe, he didn't have the best status. He had 7 events going into that U.S. Open on the nationwide tour with no top 10. So
yeah,
kind of a big deal. He plays with Retief Goose and shoots 84 in the final round in the final pairing. However, that whole experience catapulted him to a stretch that we're about to get into that's just unbelievable here. So after the U.S. Open, he takes the week off. Scranton was the following week. We missed the cut in Scranton the following week. We're home the week of the U.S. Open. And then, so 2 weeks after the U.S. Open is Peak and Peak. Yep. Jason ties for 10th. That's his first week back after the U.S. Open, after that experience. You actually tied for 5th, had a 65 on Sunday. I don't know if that rings a bell or not.
It doesn't, not the actual score. I do obviously remember the course really well, and I had a lot of good times there. Played there a few times, different events on the web, but I know, for me too, I was living in Pennsylvania, so it was somewhat of a home event for us,
Yeah.
compared to, as much travel as we do. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't remember a whole lot about the round, but it was, obviously that stretch itself was pretty incredible.
I vaguely remember that. I remember leaving that event with a really good feeling on such a good finish.
Yeah.
That was a good way to cap off that event. So after Peak
Yeah.
and Peak, I'm not going to speak for you. It was one of my favorites. We go to the Pete Dye Club.
Oh yeah.
Probably one of the best spots on tour. So Jason ends up, he wins the event, 17 under par. He actually missed the cut. I remember the previous year was my first year. We snuck a top 10 in there, but that year we missed the cut. Following week, we go to Wisconsin. If I remember, we flew to Minneapolis. I think we drove just over the border into Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Jason wins 14 under par. You tie for third after an opening round 65. And then you were just pretty steady. You were actually 6 under par for the week and tied for third with Matt Betancourt and Jason Duffner. And I
Yeah.
believe we played the final round with Bill Haas, who was 10 under par at second place, and Jason was 14. So that was a pretty good week. Do you recall anything about that event? I don't recall
Yeah,
too much.
no, I remember a little bit about the golf course. It was one of those. I think it was only there for 1 year, and then they ended the event.
It was brief. It was
Maybe
like
one or
brief
yeah,
run.
it wasn't there very much, but no, I remember just the start, just not just that event, but leading into the event, just hitting the ball and having so much control and so much confidence in my game that it was kind of the start of really, you're seeing your name up on the leaderboard and you're getting used to that, and you're teeing it up expecting to be up there and expecting to have a chance to win the event.
Yeah, that's very well said. There's so much that goes with confidence, and just you get on a roll and you keep going, right?
Yeah.
So the week after, so Jason goes win back to back. He takes the next 2 weeks off. We keep going. We go to Whistlebear in Kitchener, Ontario, for the Canadian PGA. Lo and behold, you end up winning that event. That's your first win on that stage. 19 under par, 63 on Saturday. If you recall, that final round was about a 9-hour final round with 2 weather delays. Can you expand on kind of your emotions, how you're trying to win on that stage? I know me, I was a little nervous. So tell us what you think.
Obviously being nervous, being growing up in Canada, growing up in Ontario, and having all the support, all the fans out there, wanting you to play well, wanting you to win, and my family. And but I remember that last day, just being obviously nervous, but with the weather and stuff, always expecting, you'd come in for an hour and a half, and but you're sitting there, you're getting ready to go back out because you just know you're going to go back out, or at least you have to think that.
Yeah.
And I remember playing with Ken Duke in the final round there.
Yeah.
It was kind of him and I, and I don't remember the hole, but it was right near the clubhouse coming out of a delay. It was a par 5 kind of straight away up the hill a little bit, and I feel like that was a turning point. I think I maybe out of the delay, he bogeyed, I birdied or something like that. And from that point on, I was in, pretty much control. And it was up until that, it was always kind of tight between us. And I do the next thing I remember, on 18's a 500 and some par four down the hill. And, I got up there really confident, but, I hit a great drive down the right-hand side in the right rough. And I think I had like a 9 or a wedge in on 500 some par 5 or 4. And I knew after I hit that drive, I won the tournament. Because
I think you had a 3-shot lead.
Yeah. And that pretty much, but it was such a pretty cool, cool experience, and winning that event. And, it's funny. I still have friends send me pictures when they go there and play of my picture up on the wall holding the trophy and stuff like that. Or I think they have my the scoreboard scores up
Mhm.
there as well. So it's pretty cool.
I remember probably the greatest advice I ever gave you in my career was on your approach shot. It was either a telephone pole or a tree splitting the center of the green, and I remember telling you right at that target.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because being me, I draw the ball on that 18th tee. The only trouble is left. There's some trees.
Yeah.
Everything else you could hit it a mile right. So it was just one of those situations where once you got the wedge in your hand, like you said, it's just about hitting the middle of the green. There's So
Get it home, baby.
yeah. It's funny about that. Not that I didn't like the golf course, but I liked it. But it I don't know, like it suited my game, but it wasn't one of those courses like we talked about Pete Dye. Pete Dye is one of my favorite golf courses to play,
Yeah,
just because of
good job.
the design and how it's designed and how it rolls through the canyon area, and just an awesome course. But Whistle Bear, it was just like I didn't really have an opinion on whether I really liked the golf course or what. But I just
Yeah.
played well there.
Now you love it looking back, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, favorite golf course.
Absolutely. So we took the week off after that, which was Jason's second week off in a row. So I just remember the feeling you essentially had wrapped up your card with 3 months to go in the season. So, I mean, it was such a cool feeling on that off week. And then
when that happened, when I won there, and you have this weight off your shoulders, basically. So from that basically just started a stretch where it was just like, seemed like every week I was in the top 10 or, have a chance to win. There's just so much, you're playing with basically house money.
House money. I was about to say, it was like house money, right?
Yeah. And it's just, let's see how much we can get this week. And it's like, it was such a fun kind of experience to be in that.
It's awesome to have that done so early, right?
Yeah.
So after the week off, we head to Omaha, Nebraska, which is one of I guess you could call it one of the majors on the tour. So how the story started, we kind of got into a little bit, but after Jason started 71.59, you had started 67.60. So you're sitting there at 15 under par through 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Jason finished 68.63, and I believe we played the last 2 rounds with him. I know we played the final round with him. You finished 71.67, so you ended up tied for third. Jason ends up going into a playoff after the final round 63 with Roger Tambolini and beats him in a playoff, which gave him a battlefield promotion, which what that means is 3 tour wins on that tour gets you status on the PGA Tour the rest of the year. So in 4 events after that U.S. Open where he shoots a final round 84, he goes tied for 10th, win, which is unbelievable when we're looking back. So he's the all-time leading winner on the tour with 7 wins, and he got 3 of them right there.
Yeah.
What overall, I know we talked a little bit about the Friday 59, but anything you recall about that week at all?
Yeah, just obviously, I always loved that course. The course really fit my eye and fit my game. You could take advantage of all the par 5s, drivable. There was 2 drivable par 4s.
Yeah, both on the front 9, right?
Yeah, so if you get it going, especially on that front 9, I think that year when we played it, that might have been the last year they played number 2 as a par 5. I know early on they made that it was a par 5, and then they converted it to a par 4. But either way, you get off to such a good start. Yeah. And like I said, if you're hitting the ball well and you're confident, you could just go so low on that golf course. And, you get it going, and you just kind of have in the situation I was in and already wrapping up my card, I had nothing to lose. I was being really aggressive because I was hitting the ball really well. And, I'm on the round I shot 60. I bogeyed the 6th hole from the middle of the fairway on a par 5 with an iron in. And obviously looking back at that, you're standing there. You can't, I'm sure what I did after that hole I think I birdied maybe 1 or 2 holes after that. I know I birdied my last hole. You don't know if that's going to happen, but you sit back and you're like, you got a par 5 that you should birdie. All of a sudden you bogey. That's right there. It's 58. So obviously that hurts. I would have been nice to post something in the 50s. Obviously, never done that, but it's anytime you get yourself in a position to win one of those events, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, shoot, you're 60. I mean, that's the best round I ever witnessed, and that still goes down on tours one of the best rounds in history. So
Yeah.
pretty good week looking back. So that basically wrapped up a 9-week stretch where Jason was unbelievable. And on you, as I look at it here, you've got, let's see, 5 top 10s in a 9-week stretch. You had, let's see, 4 top 5s, 3 top 3s, and a win in a 9-week stretch. I mean, that's not too shabby yourself there looking back. It's unbelievable.
You don't even, going through it though, you don't even really, you're obviously playing well, but it's not like you're really dwelling over it. Like you have a good week, you have to forget it right away and prepare for the next week. One of the toughest things to do is, especially when you win an event, to try to play the next week and still be focused and not still kind of excited and, thrilled with the fact that you just won an event. I felt like I would in that stretch, and I think over my career, I always felt like I did a good job of when I played well, that I was able to forget it real quick and be prepared for the following week. And that goes the same when I played bad. If I struggled, I was able to, about an hour after the final round, where if I didn't play well or I missed the cut, I was able to be done with it and be focused on the next event.
That's a great trait. That's something in my career playing, I probably struggled with that a little bit, especially in the younger years. So that to have that trait is very valuable, and that's why you're successful. One thing I want to mention here is so Jason goes on to the PGA Tour, and this is in September. He wins the 84 Lumber on the PGA Tour, which I honestly, until I did some of the research on this, I kind of forgot about. So and that unbelievable to have hardly any status on the tour, the Korn Ferry Tour that year, to go win 3 straight, and then also to win on the PGA Tour. He was 14 under the week he won. That's
it's unheard of. Like it's so rare to win the 3 events to get the Battlefield promotion, let alone then get on tour and then win an event. It's pretty impressive.
It's really impressive looking back. I think a lot of people, number one, don't know about that stretch he had, and number 2, probably have forgot about it. His 3 wins, I wrote down, he was 54 under par for his 3 wins back to back to back. 14 in the week he won. On your behalf here, just to run through the stats on the year for you, you'd gone on. I remember Oregon, you finished tied for 9th, and the following week you finished 2nd in just outside of Phoenix. So you had 9 top 10s on the year.
That Phoenix, sorry to interrupt, but that Phoenix event, I remember that I played with David McKenzie in the final group. And it was down to him and I, and we came down on the last hole tied, and I hit it to, I don't know, 8 to 10 feet. He hit it to 6 to 8 feet. I hit my putt first, missed it, and he made it and won the tournament. And I remember actually walking off the 18th tee, and this goes to back with what I said about like you have nothing to lose. I remember coming off that tee and looking at him and being like, how fun is this? And he looked at me like I was like nuts, like I'm from another planet. Like, what are you talking about? This is like crazy. This is me playing for my livelihood to get onto the tour. If I don't win here, I'm not on the tour. And so it was 2 different situations. But I remember also, obviously, I was disappointed that I didn't win because I do remember I didn't putt well that week and still, obviously finished 2nd. But I was very happy for him too, because I became good friends with him and him and his wife, and so it was pretty cool.
I remember that vividly. That was disappointing, but at the same time, I mean, again, what an incredible week. You gave yourself a chance, right? So for the year, you were 17 cuts made out of 24 events, 9 top 10s, 3 thirds, 2 seconds, a win, 5th on the money list, which 2 years later in 2007, you pretty much had the same year, just maybe a few, well, your win in Boise gave you a little more. That's how you made a little more, but it was kind of the same thing that 2 years later. But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, you are 17th all time on that Korn Ferry Tour money list. Jason's 3rd, and he's the all-time leader in 7 wins. So
That's cool. I didn't realize I was 17th. That's kind of neat.
yeah, pretty neat looking back. And then on a personal note here, this is one last thing. The year was unbelievable, and then also about 2 weeks after Omaha, you were in Rochester, and I stayed home that week to practice up because we had the tour come through Cleveland. I wanted to give it a run, and August 22nd, I Monday qualified into the Legend Financial Cleveland Open. So
yeah,
looking back to see everything that happened that summer, it's unbelievable. It was cool for me to have that experience to tee it up with you guys out there caddying full time every day. So that was kind of neat for me.
Did you win in a playoff with over Ricky Barnes?
Yeah, got through 8 for 5 playoff at Firestone North, and there's John Merrick, who's a tour winner, was in it. Ricky Barnes was in it. Yeah, there's some pretty good tour players in it. So that was pretty neat for me. But that's a side note.
But you put extra pressure on me to try to play well. I couldn't have you beat me that week. I was like, oh, like, but. Anyway,
well, I cut my teeth. I got beat up. I had a good second round, but I got beat up that week, and realized that caddying's probably a better option for me. Yeah. But no, I thank you. Thanks for joining, kind of reflecting a little bit and kind of sharing the story a little bit. Do you have any last thoughts you have, or just anything about the run, or?
Yeah, not really. It just going through it. It goes by so quick. The way when you're playing. Oh, when you're doing that as a living, it just goes by so quick. And I remember even going back to that Omaha event. I remember getting an invitation for the Canadian Open, which was the same week or within a week, and I wouldn't be well prepared for Omaha. And when you're in that situation, trying to improve your number or get a number to get your PGA Tour card, I had to make a decision where, even though I wanted to play my National Open and an event on the PGA Tour, it was more beneficial for me to play a web.com event because it was going to help me play out there for a full year instead of just playing one event. So decisions like that obviously paid off looking back. But
tough decision. I forgot about that until you mentioned that. It's I do remember that. That was a tough decision.
Yeah, and I think overall, like looking back at it with all the stats you bring up and stuff, it's kind of interesting because obviously I know I played well, but I never really delved too much into that. And I was always a big writing down my goals, and I remember that year. I still have my goals from that year, well, from all my years, but that specific year, I remember looking back at my goals and how halfway through the year I had to reset my goals higher because I had accomplished all my goals. And it was such a cool thing to look at and see all the boxes checked off and be able to keep kind of then now focus on these new goals. And so yeah, it's cool when everything kind of comes together and all that hard work pays off and you see the results.
That's awesome. Yeah, I kind of learned goal setting from you in college, and I pass that on to my juniors now when I teach about setting goals because it's something I kind of waited longer to do. But yeah, it's kind of cool to hear you reflect on your goals and how you had to reassess.
Yeah, it's always a good thing.
Well, cool. Yeah, I appreciate kind of reflecting back and kind of telling the story not only of Jason but yourself. So
yeah,
I appreciate it, and
no worries.
Hopefully things get back to normal here and
get
back to the normalcy of your job too, and getting the Golden Flashes back to prominence.
Exactly. Try to hopefully get out and do some recruiting this summer.
That's right.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks.